So what was really interesting to me when I was doing my research was as I moved on through the ages from the 1920s to the 1930s to the 1940s, I was seeing an evolution in terms of dress. And as women's emancipation took hold and they became more educated and began to express themselves in local newspapers, writing fiction, writing opinions, editorials, all types of subjects from how a woman should dress to whether she should cross her legs in public to, what her particular role is and whether she had a right to choose her own husband. You began to see that freedom translated itself into clothing and how they dressed themselves because skirts became shorter, expressing a freedom of movement. The sporty woman was a signal of the modern woman. This was an idea that was actually very much spread also by magazines from that time. You probably seen some of the Shanghai pictorials and magazines like the Young Companion, and a lot of them actually borrowed ideas, obviously, from Hollywood, from what was happening in the West, from the Flapper Girl and all of that. So they took all of that on, and being cosmopolitan Shanghai, and at that time, they also kind of worked it into their own. So that was when the very form-fitting Chinese qipao came about. Because prior to the mid 1920s, you did not see this form of dress. It was not invented. So in the mood for love and all, that tight fitting, that only came about during the 1920s. And by the late 1920s and 1930s, everywhere in Southeast Asia, especially in the streets of Singapore, you would definitely see women wearing this form fitting. And it was a form of situational agency. They were expressing themselves because the men took to the editorial pages as well and expressed their opinions about whether or not this form of the modern woman is a good thing. There was even an article I stumbled across where a woman wore a pantsuit, a trouser suit, basically, a pantsuit in America. And there was a huge debate about whether or not she should be dressed like a man. So it's so interesting, all of these debates in some ways, because it was really mirroring what was happening within female consciousness in terms of their own agency and their own right to express themselves in writing as well as in choices that they were making, going to work, in livelihoods, and as well as how they dressed themselves, their imaging, their self-imaging of themselves.